We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. Thanks for attending our 3+2 program webinar. We're going to cover some basics that'll be relevant to both the MPSA and MIA programs. We'll have more specific ones later in the semester, starting in October. But for now, if you've got any questions, just throw them in the chat. We'll make sure we answer them. And as a reminder, this is a program that is just for Texas A&M University students. So students can join us in their senior year, but you've got to apply in your junior year and work with your undergrad advisor to make sure that you've hit all your prerequisite courses, that you are aware of what's upcoming, and that, again, it's a good fit for your career path. So if you haven't looked at this very closely, there are two programs that we offer here at the Bush School. One is a Master of Public Service Administration that partners in political science, economics, sociology, ag econ, and rangeland and wildlife and fisheries management. The MIA only combines with international affairs. That's also now housed within the Bush School and within economics. So you econ guys, you have a choice of which program fits you best. And then in case you're questioning of what kind of the career services and what that looks like, we're going to start off with Matt Upton. He's our Assistant Dean of Career and Student Services. And then I'll come back through and talk a little bit about the programs and what those look like and how to apply, your timeline. And my name is Catherine Meyer, and I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment. So we will have two of our students join us at about 3 o'clock, and they will cover life as a graduate student. I've got several questions on a slide that they can cover about life that's a little bit different between grad school and undergrad, what they've chosen to do for their internships, what it's like to be a student here. And so Henry and Rockney will join us in a little bit. All right, now having said that, we're going to have an overview. So Matt's going to start off with career employment and talk about a little bit of the student support services that we have here. And then I'll come back through with the curriculum, some undergrad advising reminders, admission standards, and then our students will come in at the end. All right, so Matt, kick it off. It's all yours.
Great. Thanks so much, Catherine. Howdy, everybody. We're glad you're here today. I like to share information just about what our graduates do when they finish their degrees. I'm going to go ahead and just let all of you know that our 3+2 students are very successful when it comes to landing full-time employment when they graduate from here. I know there are a lot of times there are questions. I don't have a lot of experience. I finished undergrad in a way that I had the capacity to add this master's degree on. So maybe I don't have a lot of experience prior to this. And so can I really get a job if I finish this program? And the answer is a resounding yes. The great thing about it is if you're a 3+2 student, that means that you did very well academically. It means that you were tenacious and that you went through your undergraduate and graduate programs successfully. And so we find that those individuals, that translates really nicely into the career field as well. But the questions you may have are, if I get this degree in international affairs or I get this degree in public administration, what can I actually do with that degree? And you can see on this slide just a sampling. Obviously, some things are pretty clear when you look at our degree programs. If you look at the national security and diplomacy track within the international affairs program, it makes sense that we've got people going to work in the security and intelligence field. If you are going into the public administration program, you may go, but what kind of job can I do? Well, you can work in state government at the state legislature, either the House or the Senate. You could work in the governor's office. You could work for a state agency. You could work for a local government. You could work for the city of Houston or the city of Dallas or Plano or the city of College Station or city of Pflugerville. You could do something specialized like communications and public relations within any of those agencies or organizations. You could find yourself working in international development, either in DC or across the globe in another country, working for an organization like USAID or Samaritan's Purse, or any number of organizations that do work internationally in international development. Or you may find yourself giving back to the community by working for a nonprofit. We know a lot of the nonprofits that we're all familiar with are big names, right? Like American Heart Association or Habitat for Humanity or St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, because they have really tear-jerking commercials that we get to see around TV at different times or on YouTube and other places like that. So, but there are all kinds of nonprofit organizations that work in communities across the country and actually across the globe that are helping other people. And so you can find your way into those types of opportunities as well. So we'd like to give you an idea of the type of career you can do, and that's just a sampling. So who are some of the agencies? I've mentioned a few of them. Obviously, when you look at the federal government and national security, you're going to be thinking about things like the Central Intelligence Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency, FBI, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. But outside of the intelligence space, where do graduates with a degree in public international affairs degree work? Well, sometimes our students that have an undergraduate degree in economics work for a place like the Federal Reserve Bank, or they might work for the IRS. In advanced pricing agreement work. So not your typical tax agreement type stuff. You know, they're not going after people for not paying their taxes, but they're actually working within the Internal Revenue Service to help the federal government make sure that goods and services are priced accurately across international boundaries. So that's something that some of our students do. Or working for a place like the US Government Accountability Office, where you're reviewing and evaluating whether or not federal agencies are doing the work that they're supposed to be doing and how effective are they in doing that. You want to stay a little bit closer to home, you can look at state government, local government. I've already mentioned some state government entities. Local government entities, we've got graduates who are working in big cities, in suburban areas, in urban areas, and even in rural areas. We have one of our former students is the city manager of Todd Mission. Not many people know where Todd Mission is, except for it's where the Renaissance Festival is, and Aggie Parkway, or Aggie, I guess it's Aggie Driveway now, runs through that area. It was 242 for a while. And so that toll road goes through there, and he has been there as that has been built. And that community is growing now. We also have people who are working outside of the state of Texas. So no, you are not relegated to just working within the state of Texas if you want to go to a cooler climate, or if you want to go to some place that actually has seasons. Nonprofit organizations, I mentioned some of those earlier. And then, yes, we do have graduates who go to work in the private sector. Sometimes they're working for government contractors like Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a government contractor in the intelligence and defense space, or Comonix, which is a government contractor in the international development space. But we've also got former students who are working for MD Anderson or Accenture in their consulting division, maybe doing consulting in the private sector businesses, but also maybe doing consulting for public sector organizations as well. So a wide range of opportunities for you. So how do we support you as a student? Now, all of you are Texas A&M University students, so you know there are a wealth of resources at this university, and all of those resources are still available to you. But we also have some specialized resources that we have at the Bush School just for our master's degree students. So if you're interested in any of these things, you'll have the opportunity to engage with them. We have a leadership program, public service leadership program. We have a writing program. So we have our own writing consultant internal. She helps students with their writing. She's not going to edit your paper for you, but she can help you think about structure and style and content and audience and all of those things. If you've been in the Allen building for any period of time, you've probably noticed that we are always advertising a speaker. Former public servants, current public servants, researchers, faculty members across the globe are all coming in to talk on topics that are of interest to our different research institutes and centers within the school. So we have a Center for Nonprofits and Philanthropy, another Center for Homeland Security, I'm sorry, not Homeland Security, International Affairs, another one for trade and policy, economic policy. So there are great opportunities for you to hear from some really great speakers. Library resources, we have someone who is on our faculty who used to work for the A&M library, and so she provides resources for our students. We do offer study abroad trips. Those are not just for students in the International Affairs program, those are for students in both degree programs. We have some reciprocal exchange programs, although those have been a little bit slower to come back post-COVID, but we do have that option. And then in your last year, when you're doing your capstone, which is your replacement for a typical master's thesis, you're working for a client. And sometimes that gives you the opportunity, depending on where you're working. We have one that has gone the last couple of years down to Mexico to work with a nonprofit or an NGO in Mexico in our public administration program. And we've had a regular one in Latvia for our international affairs program. So sometimes our students get to travel to those contexts. For the International Affairs program, we do have a language exam requirement. So you are required to pass the American Council for the Training of Foreign Languages, which is ACTFL. You have to pass at an intermediate low level for your language. It is a language of your choice, but we really make sure that you understand clearly that you could finish all of your degree with a 4.0, and if you don't pass that language exam, you don't actually get your master's degree. So you want to be aware of that as you make decisions about which program is right for you. We do have support for you. We have online Rosetta Stone licenses that we offer to students at no charge. We have some practice groups at no charge to you. And then you can also, if you're an international affairs student, you can, in lieu of your internship between your first and second year, you can do a language immersion instead. Speaking of the internship, we do require a summer internship. Typically, that is a minimum of 10 weeks full-time, and that can be with any organization that you want it to be with. We do have career services here at the Bush School. Myself, Ashley Winterode, and Michael Cochran are all in the career services area. Michael manages our employer relations, and so he brings in employers, and you'll have the ability to go hear from them. You can go to any of those that you want to. Let's say you're in public administration, you go, I want to go check this intelligence thing out. Go to the intelligence information sessions when the CIA or DIA is here. If you're in international affairs, maybe you're in international development and economic policy track student, and you think, I don't know if I want to live internationally. Maybe I want to work for a domestic nonprofit organization. You can go to those information sessions. And so those are open to you as you go throughout your time here. I've mentioned some of our research centers. We have 6 centers and institutes here at the school. All of them do research. They provide opportunities for network and information sharing, and a number of them, although not all of them, bring in different speakers throughout the year. And then you're likely involved in student organizations at Texas A&M University, like I was when I was a student ages and ages ago. But we also have some student organizations that are specific to the Bush School, like our public service organization. We have an internal student government association, so this is separate from the main campus student government association. We also have an ambassadors council, which hosts guests when they come in and check in and serve as kind of hosts at all of our speaking and research center events. And then we also have some chapters of student organizations for professional organizations like the Association of Fundraising Professionals, that's AFP, or the International City and County Management Association, ICMA. And so those are all things that you can do. Plus, we have fun around here too. We play intramurals. We play the LBJ school over at that other school in Austin every year for softball. We hold the winning record on that one. Catherine can probably share more about that. But so we have a lot of opportunities for you that are specific to the Bush School as well. But we also encourage you, if you're involved on main campus already, you can continue that. You're just going to want to think about how you manage your time a little bit differently, because grad school does tend to be a little more intense than undergraduate. So that's it for me. I'll turn it back over to Catherine, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I will say finally, I'm upstairs in the same suite that Catherine's in. If you ever have career questions and you want to have a conversation about that, Catherine will provide my contact information at the end. And you're welcome to reach out to me. Just let me know that you're a prospective 3+2 student and that you attended this webinar, so I know what information you've already received. If there aren't any questions right now, I'm going to sign off and go to my next thing, but I'm always available if you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Matt. All right, so Matt's gonna head out, but again, I'll give you his information later and you can email him directly. So thank you. Okay, so we're gonna transition now to the part of who are we looking for? What does the Bush School want in a student, to see if you qualify for that, if you're on the right steps to making sure that you are admitted. It's very simple, right? We're motivated, smart, hardworking leaders. We want people who are going to give back to society. That's a calling to service, especially public service. And then making sure that you're mature and you're passionate about what you're wanting to do. Faculty want to make sure that people are excited to be in their classes and that it's a good fit for that. And at the Bush School, we're in turn giving you some resources and some additional skills. So here you're going to work individually, but also as part of a team. So a lot of group work that's going to be done here. You're going to develop your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Matt will cover those repeatedly, building that resume, building that skill set to get the jobs that you want. And we're preparing you for professional life, wherever it leads. People come in sometimes thinking this is the job they want to have for a while. Others know that nothing holds my interest and I want to be able to be versatile in jumping from job to job. And it may be related in that it stays within federal government, but it may be I start in federal government and then once I get tired of DC, I want to come back to Texas and work at either the state or the local level. So there's all kinds of trajectories that people take here. But really, it's building that lifelong personal and professional connections, knowing that we could help lead you in the direction you want when life changes for you, because nothing stays the same. As far as academics go, the curriculum, keep in mind the 3+2 students, you're doing the same curriculum as our MPSA and MIA regular admits, people who have already received their degree. You're still doing 48 credit hours of graduate level coursework. Now, one thing you may not be aware of is at the graduate level, 9 hours is a full load. We do 12. So you will have to fit in 4 courses, fall, spring, summer internship, fall, spring, with those 12 courses each time. 12 courses, sorry, 4 courses, 12 hours. In order to graduate on time. We have what are called tracks and concentrations that guide your curriculum. In the MPSA, those tracks are required, and there's 3 of them. In the MIA, there's 2 of them. In the MPSA, concentrations are elective. In the IA, you have to do 2 concentrations. So we can go over those a little bit later. Internship, Matt had talked about, those are required because you guys are young, you don't have the experiences to have those waived. Or if you're doing the international affairs program, you could instead insert an immersive language study. Because as he'd mentioned, you have to pass that foreign language exam. And if you are intending to study that Spanish and get it back up to speed, but you find yourself, I just haven't had time, you may want to go do a language immersion over the summer, or some even will try to squeeze in a shorter version of it in between December and January classes so that they can do their internship and not lose that time frame. So there are some programs you can do where you're just immersed for 3 to 4 weeks. The other one is the client-based capstone consulting project, which is in your final year for the MPSA, or it's your final semester for the MIA. And this capstone consulting project is the job of the faculty to go find those clients. And they're going to tell you the scope of the consulting work you're doing for them. And then you rank order your top 3 choices. So you'll have some say-so in the capstone that you want to do. And then you're going to work with your fellow students putting together basically a research and consulting work for them, not only in written, but also in a presentation to that client. And as we mentioned, the MIA does have that additional, you have to pass a foreign language exam. Now, I will say, you do not take language courses as part of your curriculum. This point, you're all outside attainment. So we're really having you build on what you've already done in either undergrad or maybe even as far back as high school in building that Spanish or that German and the French. Unless you've now chosen, let's say for the international affairs, you are trying to do a region. So if you're trying to do China, you may not want to take your test just in Spanish. You may want to work on it in Mandarin. If going into that area of expertise of being an analyst and understanding the language is important, then you'll want to take your test in it. So we will pay for each test that you have to take. We usually do it with American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. It's called ACTFL. And you will line up a time to do it. And it's a phone conversation with someone on the other end who will grade your level during a conversation. So you need to pass it intermediate low when doing that. Now, as far as graduation goes, there have been students that have started this 3+2 program who decided this isn't what I thought it was. This isn't my trajectory anymore. I kind of lost interest in what this is. This is really hard. They can exit the 3+2 program at the end of that semester and then just continue on with their undergrad. And they're still going to be able to use our courses at the grad level for their undergraduate credit, and they can just continue and graduate as usual. If you do continue into the 3+2 program and finish it out, you're going to earn both your bachelor's and your master's at the same time, always at the end of year 2. So it's not like you, even though you're basically using all the credits and you've earned that bachelor's, you don't get it until the end of the master's. So you'll get them both at the same time, and you only walk for your master's. So you won't do it for your undergrad degree. You don't have to go through 2 different graduations. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this public service administration is a 2-year, 48 credit hour. You're required for an internship and that 1-year capstone. There are a couple of PhD collaborative degrees if someone wants to go get a PhD. We have one with education, one with public health. Information's on the website. If for any reason you do a Bushkill graduate certificate, you can transfer up to 12 credit hours from it into that degree. And you've got a little bit of flexibility because some of our courses are offered online, but keep in mind, if you do that, they're offered through our certificates. It's going to cost you $1,500 more per class you do that way. So most of our students don't do the online, but there is some flexibility if you decide that there's a class that's being offered that way that you don't get in person and you really want to take it, you can just line that up and get it counted onto your degree plan. The tracks that you have to choose from are public management, public policy analysis, or nonprofit management. We're going to ask at the time that you apply which one you're most interested in. You don't have to stick with that. You may get here and you may shift, or you may choose to do 2 of the tracks and no concentrations. You can be as flexible as you would like in this because it's your education. Just get it onto your degree plan of what it is you're wanting to study. So it's quite possible to be both a public management and public policy at the same time. Now, the concentrations, most of our students do focus on an area of expertise, right? You're getting ready for a field, even if it's as generic as state and local government. And when you're doing that, there's a list of courses we have that you are choosing those courses from, and you have to do at least 3 courses to fulfill that concentration. So you'll have enough time to go through with your degree plan, with your advisor, to kind of map out what's of interest to you. And if you don't see what you like in what we offer, you can design your own. And there have been a number of students each year who will come in and let's say do transportation issues or political communication and do speech writing, or I want to do whatever, right? There's all kinds of variety because you guys have so many resources here from Texas A&M that you can borrow from other departments. So we offer these here. It's up to you to choose if you want to do a concentration. Here are some sample courses. You can see that, again, it's quite versatile. If 2 people come in from the MPSA who are public policy, they probably don't look alike in the curriculum that they're taking because there's so many different classes they can do. And if there's a health versus energy versus an education policy, again, differentiates the kind of classes and expertise they're building. So this just shows you some of the classes, and then the optional concentrations, you can create your own. Again, cybersecurity is one, education, policy, defense. Just got a lot of choices. Now, on the other side of the house, if you're coming from international affairs or econ, you can choose to do a Master of International Affairs because that's what couples with it. And in this case, also a 2-year, 48 credit hour program. Only you have a few more electives to play with because they are giving you more freedom to develop those concentrations. It does require passing that foreign language exam to graduate. It does require an internship or a language immersion over that summer typically. And it does require that semester-long capstone working for a client. They have, instead of the PhD programs, they have combined degrees, which are 3-year degrees with either public health or economics. So if interested in those, that information is on the website, or you can talk to your advisor through economics. And then you can transfer up to 12 credit hours from a certificate. But again, you guys are moving so fast, you usually don't need that. The tracks you guys are choosing from, if you are in econ, you have to do the international development and economic policy track. If you're coming from international affairs, you can choose either one, but most are choosing the national security and diplomacy. The concentrations, you just have to choose 2 of them, right? You can develop a 3rd if you want. But here, some of these are tied to the tracks. So for instance, if you're in IDEP, that international development, you would have to do one of those that's listed under the heading of IDEP, which would be cross-listed as women, peace, and security, or pandemic preparedness and biosecurity. But it's also going to be foreign economic policy and international economic development. So you got a couple of choices. Your second concentration can be any of them. So even as an IDEP student, you're not locked out of any of these concentrations. It's just one of them has to be tied to the IDEP, which is 4 of them you can choose from. So here's some sample courses. Now notice in the red, these are our national security ones. So diplomacy, intelligence, grand strategy. Conflict and development, I put in brown because it's cross-listed. It fits both under national security and international development. And then just as an example, I grabbed international economic development, and it is for sure under IDEP. But if someone in national security wants to do an IDEP, they can as their second concentration. So lots of different kind of classes. Some of them are very speculative in the kind of the content that it's doing. They're very interesting, really. And they change constantly with what's going on in the world. So the faculty are dynamic in this. Now, as far as tailoring your courses to your interests, you're going to be building upon your core and your track courses to develop that specialty areas. And like I mentioned, you can take courses in other Texas A&M departments with approval. And as far as our faculty go, you're going to get a mix of both the seasoned practitioners and the research professors. So just as an example, in the International Affairs Department, we have a former CIA Director of Operations, an administrator of USAID, an ambassador for the U.S. Foreign Service, someone from the RAND Corporation, UN Development Project Manager, top lecturers and academics in their fields. For instance, Dr. Norris does the China area. He's an expert in that field. On the other side of the house, Public Service Administration, they've got experienced faculty who ran nonprofits. They do public and private organization management, Texas education and school finance, and a lot more. I didn't try to list everything. As far as interacting in a small school environment, just so you're aware, you're not having any classes with 300 students. Our class size of those that we admit, for instance, the MPSA this year, we usually aim for around that 85 to 90. We're a little under that. We're right at 74, I believe, this incoming class for MPSA. And we were right at about 90, 91 for the MIA. Because they count their MIP and their MIA MPH and the MIA Econ all trying to get to 100. So we keep that number at about 90. So on average, 80 to 100 students is what we're looking for per department. We don't want Aggies to be every single student in that. So obviously we're looking to diversify from other institutions, out of state. That enriches everybody's education when you get different viewpoints. So keep in mind, you as 3+2 students are competing against other Aggies who are applying with their degree, which is why we require a 3.5 GPA for those coming in from international affairs and a 3.25 for every other major. You guys typically do very well. You're very active. That resonates well with the faculty, but just make sure if you're skating in at a 3.25 GPA, there's a chance you won't be admitted because everyone else may have higher averages and just a little more meat to their resume. So you've really got to watch that if applying. The average class sizes for us is usually around 16. Most of our classes cap out at 20, maybe 25 students. So these are small interactive courses. As an undergrad reminder, you've got to have at least 104 minimum hours in order to come into our program and have taken all those prerequisites that are listed on the course planners on the websites, and that our advisors are now got their hands on to work with you. You got to take all those prerequisites before you enter into the Bush School your senior year. And you're also working with your advisor to set back some of those classes that are required because our classes are going to count for them. So you don't want to take them ahead of time or you're paying for classes you didn't need to, because that's what our class would have done. So just make sure if you are in international studies, international affairs, undergrad major, you've got to complete that study abroad experience prior to enrollment. And for some students that they were gone in the spring and they did their interviews remotely, or they did it in the summer before. So just make sure that you're working with international affairs to take care of that. And I mentioned this before, there's a minimum GPA requirement. At the time of enrollment, you must be at a 3.25 for all the majors with the exception of INTA. and we moved theirs up to a 3.5. And the reason for that is because there's just so many people who apply for that national security and diplomacy, which is what most of our INTA students do, that average is usually a 3.6 something. And so they're making you be close to what those averages have been. So they make you a 3.5. You're going to work out those course planners with the undergrad advisors. They're now required to even apply to make sure that everybody understands the courses they have left and what it's going to look like when they're taking our classes. And then when you come to us, you are still regarded as a U4. So an undergraduate fourth year, which is a senior, in your first year with the Bush School, which means you'll be charged undergrad prices. And you don't have to charge our fee, because the Bush School charges a fee until, or at least the graduate fee, until your second year. So you're going to change over to a G7, which is our master's level, upon completing about 120 credit hours. And that's going to be the summer in between your first and second year. I'm only going to mention this just a little bit. This doesn't affect most of our students, but it does affect some. So keep in mind, if you are taking out financial aid at Texas A&M, and I mean federal financial aid. So anyone who's doing Pell Grants, anyone who is doing federal loans, and it's clearly stated what those loans are, you get affected because of the way the hours work. Remember, I told you, grad level, we do 12 hours at a time. So in year one, you're taking 12 hours, and all those 12 hours are counted for federal aid, and you're fine. But in the spring, when you take 12 hours, only 6 of those hours are counted towards the grad, or sorry, for undergrad. And so you're regarded as 6 hours for federal aid. Now, if you're Texas aid and you're getting just a scholarship from the university, it doesn't matter. But for federal financial aid, they don't recognize it because you cap out at 18 hours. So it's 12 hours and 6 hours. So I've given a little bit more explanation here, but you've got to work with Texas A&M student financial aid to see how this might affect any of those federal financial aid. And if you don't know, just pull it up on your Howdy portal and look at it, and maybe go talk to an advisor in financial aid, just to make sure that you don't run into this. If you're taking institutional awards, state awards, it does not matter. They don't look at that federal financial aid tag. So you're fine. There's no effect of it. So again, this only affects a couple of students. Now, when to apply and what do we look for? Your students typically apply when they're around 65 to 80 hours. And that includes anything that you brought in. If you're counting any pre-AP courses or other things that you did over the summer and got credit for them, just make sure they're getting onto your transcript and working with your advisor that they're counting for something, required courses. We only have fall enrollment. So you got to watch your timing. If you're hitting these hours and you're off, you may miss your window. Sometimes people have to speed up or slow down. I will say that it's not worth to try to speed it up and miss out on opportunities. Just get your degree as usual and come to us and do the 2-year, no matter what you're doing, our 2 years. You just may not be able to double count credit toward the undergrad. So not saving as much money, but you also are not receiving full financial aid. And I'll cover that in a second. So don't force this to work. If the 3+2 program doesn't work for your schedule, your timing, just get your degree and come to us as usual and just apply as a normal applicant. Now, if you are applying as a 3+2 student, you are not applying through the traditional means because you're still an undergrad. So you can't go through the GradCast application. Instead, you're doing what's called an internal application. It's found on our website. We're very clear that if you start the GradCast, it's going to say, are you a 3+2? If you say yes, it's going to go stop. Do not complete this any further. You need to go to our website and complete this. So we are still going to need that application on our website, right? The internal app. We're going to need a resume, a personal statement, the transcripts, which are all unofficial, and we can get those because they're in your portal. Recommendations, we've dropped that down to 2 now instead of 3. So you're just going to submit those via email from the recommenders that you have told. They're going to submit it to us. And then the GRE scores are optional. Some want to do it to help make their files stronger, especially if they're a good test taker, but we can go over that later. But most are opting out and not doing it. And then proof of English proficiency, those are only for our international applicants. So in case you're curious, what's this timeline look like? We encourage students to apply by December 15th. So you need to be working a year out. If your senior year you look to be hitting in fall of 2025, then you've got to make sure that you've applied by that December 15th, if you can. And the reason we like it early is because we want to make sure that we get that in front of faculty to read over the holiday break when they have a little bit more free time before we get into classes starting again in mid-January. This year, the MIA deadline is January 5th, so don't go past it. It gives you a couple more weeks if you miss the priority, but you don't want to miss that priority or the MIA final deadline. January 10th is going to be the MPSA, so you get a few more days. In the mid-January, we're going to start reviewing all the applications. February, we conduct interviews. I highly encourage, if you guys are here on campus, to do those in person. If you realize that you are completing something abroad or not here and can't make it, I would still try to do something in person and arrange something uniquely with me to set those up for faculty. It's fine, you can do a Zoom interview. It just means more usually if you're in person. It's just easier to connect with that interviewer when you're not awkwardly trying to talk over each other on a Zoom when there's a little bit of lull and you talk and they talk and so forth. So if you can make it to those, if you're applying for as early as this fall, these are the dates for it. MPSA almost always goes first. It's February 14th, 15th. MIA is February 21, 22. So it's a half day Friday, all day Saturday. We'll have round robin events. You get to meet faculty, you get to meet alumni, the students have panels, have different student orgs you can visit with and just learn more about the Bush School itself. Late February, early March, we make our final decisions. By mid-March, we're sending you that letter with a aid included. Now I'll talk about aid on the next page, but April 15th is the date you've got to let us know. I would encourage that if you're only applying to us because you're part of the 3+2 program, just accept it as soon as you can, because the sooner you accept, the sooner you can register for classes. And many of them will start filling up pretty quickly. So as far as financial aid goes, it's a competitive enrollment. Now, these were our numbers for this year. MPSA was a 3.47. GPA for the MIA was just a little bit higher to 3.56. Your scholarship level is going to be affected by merit, which a lot of times is the GPA and any other intangibles that they are evaluating through your file. But that merit is only going to be pertinent for year 2 for 3+2 students, because you guys are only funded in year 1 at $1,000 because you're still undergrad. So we're expecting that any type of scholarship, whether it be an A&M Aggie Moms Award or some other scholarship, you can continue to use it for your 4th year. If you don't, well, the only thing you're getting from us is $1,000. We don't change that. It's across the board. In year 2, we've already told you what your second year will be because that was a merit-based award, evaluated with the rest of the incoming students. So you're going to either get $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, or $10,000. There's a few that might get higher than that, but usually $10,000 is about the highest we go for some of these Texas A&M students who are part of that 3+2 program. There is an opportunity that you'll never see that funding because instead you did a really successful first year and maybe you developed a connection with a faculty member who is going to have a GA position. And if that's the case, you can apply for a GA position and instead you'll get that, and that's worth about $20,000. And you would have never seen that $3,000 or $5,000 that would have kicked in because you can't do both. It's one or the other. If you get an internship that is unpaid between your first and second year, you can apply for a stipend, and that's available through the Career Services Office. Matt was just talking earlier about how they support you guys, but you have to attend our career workshops to apply for that. So overall, this is just a best value education. Each year at the grad level, we cost about $13,600, but remember in your first year, you're still U4. So that cost is a little bit lower because you're still paying on whatever you came in that was locked in usually for 4 years. Non-Texans, if I have any on here, you non-Texans are granted a non-resident tuition waiver as well. So you would be able to qualify for Texas rates. All right, and I see our students are here. Rockney and Henry, you both are here. So student insights. I am going to say that undergraduate department advisors are your key person. People want to come in and talk to Ashley and me for advising, and I don't handle advising. I handle admissions, and I can cover the generics, but I don't work with a degree plan. Your best resource for that is your undergrad advisor. And if you've got questions about something more pertinent, then you would go to the department and work with their advisors, which would be Peg or, oh God, why am I going blank on her name? The other one for MPSA. I'll think of it, Elaine. Sorry, I'm one blank. So I'm going to let students talk now, our current students. So Henry Anderson and Rockney Reed. Henry is coming from the MPSA program with political science, I believe. And so he's going to represent kind of that aspect. I know at least one of you is here on for that. And then Rockney's going to cover the MIA. But just remember, guys, this is going to be on the website. So there will be other people who will view this later. So just talk about these experiences. I've given a lot of just suggested topics. You guys can jump around if y'all both want to talk about the same thing very quickly and then go to another one, or you can just choose one and someone else choose another one. And we'll cover this for about the next 30 minutes. We want to make sure we're off of here by 3:45. And then you guys, if any of you, just remember this is recording. If you do have questions, don't make it too personal where you don't want this out on the website. We can always get you at a later time. But I'm going to keep recording because I know it's important. If you guys drop in a chat question and so forth, it'll just be visible. All right, so I'll be on, but I'm just going to start. Henry, if you'll just introduce yourself and what you're studying, and then we'll let Rockney do the same, and then we'll start hitting some of these questions.
Sure. Can you all hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay. My name is Henry Anderson. I'm a 3+2 student in my second year in the MPSA program. My undergrad is economics. So I did 3 years of economics at A&M, and then my fourth and fifth years are at the Bush School, and I'm currently in my fifth year. I'm on the MPSA track, which is Public Service and Administration. There's three options for MPSA. There's policy analysis, public management, and then nonprofit management. And I'm pursuing policy analysis and public management with a state and local government concentration.
Yeah, I can introduce myself here. My name is Rockney Reed. I was an international studies undergrad with the politics and diplomacy concentration for that. And then for the last 2 years, I've been doing a 3+2 MIA in international affairs. My track is IDEPS, that's International Development and Economic Policy, but I also kind of mix it up and I have some of the security pieces covered with my grand strategy and defense concentration. So I can kind of talk to both sides of the MIA because that's the big divide. Is people on the IDEP side are more focused on the economics. People on the NSD side, what's called, are more focused on the security side. But I can kind of talk to both. So if anyone does have specific questions, I can talk about that. Yeah, so that's a little bit about myself. Is there any questions that you want us to cover first?
It doesn't matter. So, Rodney, since you're already talking, why don't you just take a look at this list and grab one, and let's just talk about it.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the differences between undergrad and grad school. And really what I want to highlight is the difference of what a grad school experience is like versus a 3+2 experience. There's lots of other resources out there you can see on what going to grad school is like. It's a lot more reading, it's a lot more work. You have to dress up a little fancier every day. What I think is so unique about the 3+2 experience is you have your senior year of college where you are trying to wrap up all your requirements for your bachelor's degree. Maybe you're in some student organizations outside of that you've been in for a few years, but you're also starting a completely new program, which is exciting in a lot of ways, but there's also some challenges that come with that. And so the biggest thing this kind of hits on the first question and the thing you wish you knew sooner. Instead of getting a traditional senior year experience where a lot of your friends might be kind of declining in their workload and their commitments, and getting the traditional grad experience where you're starting fresh, maybe coming out of a job, you're kind of combining those two things. So you're that fourth year, you're doing both of trying to go through your senior year of college, hang out with your friends that you've known for 3 or 4 years, and starting an entirely new, more rigorous program, which is really exciting. There's lots of new opportunities that I'm sure Henry and I can talk about here in a minute. But there's also some challenges that come with that, where it's hard to balance some of the interpersonal relationships of, I've got these friends that I've spent 3 years with. I want to spend a fourth year with them and really soak in that time. But I also have 3 books to read this week. And so you have to balance all of that, which is exciting, but it's just something to be aware of that I think is really unique about the 3+2 experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was definitely a bit of an adjustment for me. Like Rockney said, kind of spending my senior year with the friends from undergrad while also making all these new relationships and then continuing those into this year has been it's been a blessing, but it did take some getting used to. Another difference is just the class, the class schedule. I'm sure y'all being undergrads are used to, as I was, 50-minute or an hour, 20-minute classes. At the Bush School, they're 2 hours and 50 minutes, and they're once a week. So it's different in that you're not going to class every day. But when you are in class, you're in class. You can't just it's a bigger deal if you miss a class. Like, you'll be fine, but you have to put in effort to reach out to those professors, and ensure that you're caught up, because each class is pretty consequential just because of the amount of things that happen in class and the length that they are. So the scheduling is a little bit different. You find yourself with chunks of time where you have class for, 6 hours a day, and then the next day you don't have class. So it's a bit of an interesting challenge trying to distribute your workload in a way that works for you throughout the week. The professors are super accommodating. I know I've missed some classes, and they've always been cool with me about it, and they work with me. And that's another thing that I think is different about the Bush School graduate level classes than undergrad, is that you get to build relationships with your professors in ways that just aren't practical in undergrad. I think in undergrad I had classes that were, I don't know, the average was probably 40 people. The smallest class I had was probably 25. Right now I'm in a class there's 7 of us, and we all know the professor, and she knows us, and um, just being able to build that personal relationship with them. They're able to sort of cater the material to what they know you're interested in, and they're really there to help you, because they can be, like, undergrad professors, it's just not practical for them because there's so many people in the class. Whereas here, it's a little bit different, and I think that's pretty special.
Just
Uh,
grab.
so oh yeah, so going down the list, I think we kind of touched on the classroom experience piece. So I can talk a little bit about the career leadership, writing workshops, and I'll kind of tie in the attending speaker events. Like Henry was saying, because it is just a smaller program, we're going from 75,000 students overall at A&M to a few hundred at the Bush School. You do just get a lot more one-on-one time with your peers, with your professors. And so all of the professional development opportunities they have are also a lot more geared to what you're interested in, and they can be more impactful because of that. So we have the Bush School has a first year writing course that you can take if you're interested. I've had several friends that have taken that and are really interested. And I think the biggest way that they do that professional development is, first, just like Henry was saying, because the classes are smaller, you can get a lot more time with your professor. And so in some of my undergrad classes, if I had questions about a paper, I would send an email and hopefully I'd get a response, but I knew they were also answering 100 other emails about that assignment. In this, most of the Bush School professors just have their doors open. And if you're there and they're there at the same time, they're more than happy for you to just come in without an appointment, sit down, and you can talk through your assignment for half an hour. Like, I have a paper coming up in a few weeks. And so I sat down with Ambassador Hennessy Island and got a chance to talk with him about my topic and some issues with it. Which I had that experience some in undergrad, but it was a lot more pre-planned, and you had to schedule it and trek across campus. Because I'm at the same building every day with the same people, his door was open. I could walk in and ask him a question. So I think that the smaller class size really helps that career and professional development. And the other thing is getting to hear directly from experts in their field. There are a lot of great speaking events at A&M overall, but because we're a part of a much smaller program that's really targeted at what we're interested in, they can bring in speakers that are A, really high caliber, and B, relevant to what we're interested in. So in the 2 years that I've been here, we've brought in the CIA director, the FBI director, the director of national intelligence. Last 2 weeks ago, they brought in the director of all special operations, the 4-star general in charge of that. That's more on the national security side, but they've also brought in the CEO of Bass Pro, senators, the former secretary for housing. So there's just a lot of really, really high caliber people that have been connected with the Bush School that come back and talk to the students because they're interested in it. One thing I do want to highlight, a lot of these opportunities are also open just to the general public or to undergrads. So if any of that sounds interesting, there's lots of great resources you can find to go to some of that while you're undergrad, but it's just easier to go when you're a part of the 3+2 program, because my classmates are going, and so they'll ask, "Hey, are you going to go see the director of CIA talk this afternoon?" So there's just kind of an added incentive to go to some of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, great point, Rodney. I've really enjoyed a lot of the speakers and papers that I've seen presented at the Bush School. I've learned a lot outside of the classroom, which has been awesome. Looking at this list and seeing what we haven't covered, and please ask us questions if we don't cover anything. The capstone experience. So I'm working on my capstone right now. Rockney, I believe you are too. It's cool. So my capstone, we're working on invasive species uh, for the state of Texas, and we are trying to identify the flow of funding from the national level all the way down to individuals, and what the money is being used for to treat invasive species. It's really cool. I met with my group this morning. You really get to know the people in your group. There's 8 of us. I knew most of them before, and we're becoming close just by the nature of how often we see each other and how closely we're working. So it's been really cool, and I'm excited to continue working with those guys to complete our project. It's more intensive, I'd say, probably in the second semester. Um, you have the same project your first semester and your second semester of your second year, and it's really cool. The job market. So I think one thing that was, important for me when I was deciding whether or not to join the Bush School was, or it made it easier when I realized that there's a market for public servants. People our age, for whatever reason, um, aren't, signing up to serve people in ways that generations before us have. So there's a shortage of people who are learning what we are and wanting to go into the fields that we are wanting to. So that's cool because potential employers are reaching out to us at the Bush School. They're coming there to recruit us. Um, I have a friend who's in the interview, who graduated last year from the IA program, and uh, he's interviewed with quite a few federal agencies, and is going to be entering a federal law force academy pretty soon. So I know he's excited about that, and those are connections he made through the Bush School because they come to recruit because there's such a shortage of people who are wanting to enter public service. And so it's a good opportunity for us to enter kind of ahead of others. The internship process, so you're required to get an internship between your first and second years. This summer, I went to my hometown and worked for the city manager. I really enjoyed it. It gave me an opportunity to decide if that's what I want to do after the Bush School, and it really gave me some insights about what I'm learning at the Bush School and how I apply that in my future career. The Bush School and the staff are super accommodating on helping you find internships. Um, our emails we get probably 4 or 5 a day about potential internships that we could pursue. So there's plenty of opportunities there.
Yeah, I agree with everything Henry would say. The 2 things I would add, going on the opportunities they give, just about every week there's some sort of employer either coming in person or virtually to talk directly with Bush School students, and those are awesome because they often also provide free lunch. So it's a great chance to get a free meal and to hear about the work that people are doing all across the entire realm of public service, both federal, state, local, and non-governmental. Um, the other thing I would add is because the Bush School is so small, but has been around for quite a while and has a really great reputation. Um, you add the network that a small professional school like the Bush School has with the Aggie network, and it really creates some powerful situations. So I got my summer internship this last summer. I was in DC at a group called the Special Competitive Studies Project. They're a nonprofit that works at the intersection of AI and national security. But I was talking with Catherine Weary, who's one of the Bush School professors, and she was just kind of asking what I'm interested in. And it was close enough to what she knew a former classmate, he was a Bush School grad of '01, what he was doing. So she connected me with him, and he's working in government right now. And then he connected me with one of his buddies, and that's how I got my interview and internship with the SCSP this last summer. And so, because you're a part of a much smaller program, where again, Henry's talking about his class of 7 people, I have one with 5 people. Your professors go out of their way. Like, I just had a professor ask me for my resume to start sending around to folks. So that Aggie network really can come into action, because you have a lot of people that know your name, know your face, know what you're interested in, and then can use all of their connections from the time when they were in government to help you get those jobs, which is really awesome. Because odds are, if you're interested in working somewhere in the government, whether it's CIA, DoD, USAID, the state legislature, there are Bush School grads there doing that job right now, and they understand how it feels to be in your shoes, panicked about finding an internship or a job. And so they've always been extremely generous, at least with me, of at the bare minimum offering a phone call and advice, and up to giving you connections and tips and tricks for applying. So it's definitely not a guarantee that you'll get the exact job that you want, but I'm saying the doors are all there, and people are more than happy to open them for you if you go out of your way and start asking for them. So we kind of talked a bit about balancing school and work, but I can touch on that a little bit as well, because on the last slide we were talking about being a grad research assistant. I was lucky enough to be selected as one for this year, which is about, like the slide was saying, it's about 20 hours a week. And I'm not going to lie, it can be tough, because you have all this more intensive work for school, and then you have to turn around and start helping your professor with research. But because of the way the professors understand what it's like to be a student here. So I'm working with Dr. Serrato as my professor. She's been very accommodating with the work I have and all of that. And so I know for the grad research position specifically, there's a lot of accommodation to ensure that your schoolwork can still get done and you can be a productive employee. And I know that most of my friends that are working are also working at on-campus jobs, whether it's on main campus at places like the MSC or Coldus. So it definitely can be done. I know we were mentioning earlier that the program is more intensive. You have more reading, more work, all of that. But oftentimes I've seen people be able to manage both having the full grad course load and holding a job. Both those things can definitely work together.
Yeah, and just to back up Rockney on that, I also have a job. It's not on campus. It's not through the Bush School. It's total. I'm actually, it's random, but I'm actually a ranch hand, so it's completely unrelated to anything academic. But it's fun, and I enjoy it, and I probably work about 10 to 12 hours a week, just a couple of days. I just go out there in the mornings, and this is my first semester working, and because I was hesitant last year to overcommit, while the Bush School is still new for me, but it can be done. It's fine. You know yourself better than anybody who's giving you advice. So I would just say, if you tend to overcommit, maybe have that in mind when considering working, especially for your first semester. But if you feel you can do it, go for it. Do y'all have any questions about things that we kind of covered or didn't cover?
It's a very quiet group. All right,
That's
we
all
do
right.
have a question. Yeah. Let's ask if someone will unmute, tell me what you're hearing from your undergrad advisors at any point that you might have a question for on how to follow up. Any prospects who can you guys unmute somebody?
Well, I see we have one in the chat. I'll read it so we all hear it. It says, I'm in econ, interested in MIA. What actions, such as extracurriculars or organizations, can an applicant take now to foster a competitive application, especially as someone who entered this semester with credit and may have a shorter window? So what I'll say, one thing I did that I don't know how much it helped me, was I took the GRE exam just in an attempt to bolster my resume because I didn't have a lot of previous experience, besides my econ grades, so and some student organizations. But besides that, I didn't have much, so I was a bit worried uh, about being a competitive applicant. So I took the GRE, and I just decided if I got a score that I deemed high enough, I would include it in my application, and if I didn't, I wouldn't. So I do not believe the Bush score requires it unless you have uh, unless your GPA doesn't meet a certain threshold.
And that's even now it's gone, right? That's completely
Oh,
optional.
okay.
Yep.
But that's
Yeah. And that's a great suggestion. I will say another one because I've heard Adam even mention this, that as he came in from econ, he joined SCONA because he knew he wanted to
Yes.
be interested in national security, right? So it's a student organization. So if you can find something on campus that you can be a leader in, that you can partake in, that you can help run that conference and meet with some people one-on-one, those open up doors and opportunities and show the balanced applicant.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was a part of SCONA. I was in leadership for it last year, and SCONA specifically is great because we bring in a lot of Bush School professors to help with us. So like you get 3 days, whether you're in the committee planning it or attending it, where you're one-on-one. Like I met Professor Colonel Mike Riley when I was a freshman, and he is now a Bush School professor on the MPSA side, and he's kind of been my mentor throughout because of SCONA. And like that conversation I was mentioning earlier with Professor Catherine Weary, that was at SCONA. I was already in the Bush School at that point, but that was when she made a connection for me to get a job. So organizations like SCONA, there's some others out there like MSU Wiley that do a great job. The other thing I would add, if you're interested in MIA specifically, one of the parts that I knew that all the professors really cared about when they were talking with me about things were your international experience overall. That doesn't mean you necessarily have had to have been abroad, but you need a pretty clear reason of why you're interested in the international piece of all of it. And I had relatively limited experience when I was applying. I'd been to Mexico on a trip, a mission trip, like a service trip, and then I had been to a short-term exchange to France. But none of that was like high international politics. But I was able to kind of use those little things to articulate why I was interested in international affairs more broadly. So maybe looking at, because you won't be doing, or you're not required to do an international study as an econ major, like I was as an international studies major, maybe looking at some sort of study abroad, international experience that can help you build a case for why the Master's of International Affairs makes sense for you and what you're interested in.
And that's spot on. And I'll add to that, make sure that you have the language, because faculty don't want to see too many at the beginning level, right? That basic introductory, because they're not sure how you're going to do in passing that test. And the last thing they want to do is bring students in who struggle with language and can't graduate. So not only that with language to go with that study abroad, but just making sure that you are working with your undergrad advisor. Don't mess up on missing classes or having to try to squeeze them in at the last minute. That could affect just the overall feel of how's my summer going. And I'm like, I have to take 2 classes I didn't know I needed because you just didn't work with your advisor. So just make sure that that's key too. Yeah. So we don't have to go the full time, but is there anybody else who's got questions, or guys, if there's any other 1 or 2 things you'd want to say to kind of close this out? I don't want to drag this out. You guys have done great in answering these questions. Very thorough. But is there any last little ditch thing, and someone who wants to drop in another question, feel free to, but we'll just end with y'all's comments, advice, what you think about, you're looking for a job right now and how that's going, whatever you want to.
Yeah, one thing I'll say, so I know at least one of y'all is an econ undergrad. And I think a lot of what you learn in economics is you learn to apply while you're at the Bush School. So for example, a lot of the classes I'm taking are, I wouldn't say economics heavy, but having that economics background is helps me a lot, and I think gives me kind of a relative advantage over some of my classmates. However, those with like a more political science background or a more international affairs background probably surely have an advantage over me in some other areas. So whatever, the Bush School does a very good job of bringing in people of a diverse background, so then who approach problems from different perspectives, and by virtue of that sort of diversity of thought, you're able to learn and hear perspectives that you never would have. So that's one thing I really appreciate about the Bush School.
Yeah, I totally agree. Coming from undergrad international studies, the biggest difference I would say is that, kind of like you're saying, you learn some concepts in economics and they apply them. I think that's largely true for the international affairs side. It's a lot more academic and theoretical for the undergrad classes I took, and my master's classes are much more applied to policy.
Mhm.
The last big thing I would piece of advice or thing to think about is the 3+2 really is a trade-off. And I think there's really positive things. I would not trade the experience I've had for the world, but I just want everyone to have a clear eye about what you're getting, because it can be a little cheaper because you're going straight through. It can be a lot faster. You can be competitive for jobs earlier, but there's a trade-off. And I think one of the coolest parts about a master's program, at least in theory, is that you can go out into the real world, work a job for a few years, and then come back and get that experience. And so I have classmates who are in their early 30s, about to have kids, have worked in the military or in a federal department for years. And so when they're coming back to their classes, they have a lot more focus, as opposed to me, who I'm still trying to figure out where I want to work, what I want to do. And so there's no right or wrong way. It's just a trade-off that you have to be aware of. And like I mentioned earlier, there's kind of a trade-off between your standard senior year that's a little bit more fun and your fourth year as a 3+2, where you are jumping into a new experience. And so it's a really exciting process. But I know when I was going through it, like I came to A&M wanting to apply to the 3+2 program, and there's more to life than just trying to go through something as fast as possible. So it's an awesome program. I wouldn't trade it for the world, being a 3+2, but there are trade-offs involved with that, and just make sure you take all of that into account. Last thing I want to say is, if you have any questions, my email is just my name, rockneyreed@tamu.edu. Please feel free to reach out, either the people on the Zoom now or watching online. If you have any of the questions about the international studies, the MIA, the IDEP side, or SCONA, I'm always happy to talk about any of that. So please feel free to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to set up a time to talk with you.
And same goes for me. My email's on the screen, Henry T. Anderson at TAMU. I'd love to be a resource for anybody who has any questions on the MPSA side.
Great. Well, thank you both, and thank you guys for attending. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then if anybody else at any point in the next minute or two just wants to stay online and just talk to me directly one-on-one, feel free to do that. The rest of you can go ahead and